Mr. Sonam Wangchuk tweeted, "Thank you, Prime Minister, for fulfilling Ladakh's long-standing dream." 6 years later, he's arrested under the NSA. What happened?
लद्दाख का दिल्ली चलो आंदोलन
बहुत से लोग यहाँ अनशन में जुड़े हैं.
Using of force and power and using the entire machinery that is at your disposal, to first witch hunt somebody for the last 1 year, then to character assassinate somebody, using your IT cell, all kinds of wrong things that were being spoken about him as a agent of Pakistan or China. There was a character assassination, which is not a good thing at all. By MHA, there was in a way, a very open demand from them that Sonam should not be part of the talks.
Why is that?
So Ladakh is one area which is left pristine. So we can set a model for India and the rest of the world that how we can do development, which is not. So 6th schedule is not anti-development. It is a certain sustainable kind of development which is meaningful and which takes the consent of the people there to go forward. People coming together, there were some talks, and some of the leaders of political parties, all of them, they made very strong, some remarks, and then that led to a group of youth from Ladakh to break away, and that's the last thing that Sonam saw, that they broke away and went. And then
These were from at the ground where the protest was taking place.
So they broke away from that
Okay.
ground, and then they went somewhere.
So tear gas by the paramilitary forces,
Yes.
stone pelting by the protesters, or
And
people who were there.
And some protesters said that they even saw sometimes this paramilitary pelting stones and then saying, see, the locals are pelting stones. Actually had happened was people were peacefully protesting. And then out of the blue, there were this tear gas that was done. And then stone pelting started. The postmortems of the 4 people who died, because never in such circumstances you shoot at the head or the heart. He took to the podium and there were gunshots being heard when he's speaking. And he called off the unction.
Mr. Wangchuk depositing 3.35 lakh rupees into the non-profits FCRA account. There were also questions raised about a donation of 4.93 lakh rupees from a Swedish donor for youth awareness programs. Tell us a little bit about the funding of the institute and this notice and how it was handled.
Both the people of Ladakh are extremely patriotic and nationalist. Party at the center is extremely patriotic and nationalist. So neither of them are asking for anything which is against the national interest. Judiciary is not free. The media is not free. When such inquiries are happening, they are not happening with the spirit of actually finding out the truth. He gives the example from how Mahatma Gandhi had to fight the British for India's independence. He had to go to jail, he had to do padyatras, he had to do unshans, get beaten up.
हम किसी और पर दुख नहीं दे रहे हैं, पीड़ा नहीं दे रहे हैं, खुद पे दे रहे हैं. यही तो गांधी जी का रास्ता था.
Politicians make promises before elections. They cannot not keep up those promises. It's like giving a check and then the check bouncing. If that is a criminal offense, when your check bounces, then when your manifesto, points bounce, why is it not a criminal offense?
जो वादा किया है वो निभाना पड़ेगा.
What Sonam was trying to tell the government at the center is that this is central to Ladakh's demands, and if you do not pay heed to this, you will lose. Because they didn't pay any heed to it, they did lose the MP elections last year. The youth who had also become tired of Sonam's peaceful methods because they were not seeing any results happen, employment or in other even minor issues. So they were feeling that this government is not going to listen to these peaceful ways.
अंधेर नगरी.
Mr. Wangchuk has been accused of turning the protest on September 24th in Leh, in which Indian paramilitary soldiers shot dead 4 protesters after they had set the local office of the Bharatiya Janata Party on fire. Mr. Wangchuk's wife, Gitanjali J Angmo, moved the Supreme Court thereafter, challenging his detention under the NSA and seeking his immediate release. I'm Mahika Baker and you're watching The Other Side. Gitanjali ji, thank you so much for speaking to Brut and coming to our office today.
Thank you for inviting me.
On August 5th, 2019, when Article 370 was abrogated. There was a separate entity for Ladakh which was created. J&K became from a state, a union territory. Mr. Sonam Wangchuk tweeted, "Thank you, Prime Minister, for fulfilling Ladakh's long-standing dream." 6 years later, he's arrested under the NSA. What happened?
So even when Article 370 was abrogated, it was a long-standing demand of Ladakh since 1942, when Bakula Rinpoche, the tallest figure in Ladakh politics as well as Ladakh spirituality, was asking for, had decided that Ladakh, which was a separate kingdom, be united with India. And in 1947, instead of it being granted a separate statehood, it was merged with J&K. So ever since this independence, this was a demand of the people of Ladakh, that Ladakh should have its own separate identity. And after the Britishers left, they had lumped the whole country as provinces.
Right.
We started making states which were based on linguistic grounds, as linguistic provinces, and also linguistically and culturally that were different and diverse. So Ladakh in no way could be lumped with Jammu and Kashmir. And so it was always the dream and the demand of the people of Ladakh that it be a separate state.
Because even linguistically, it doesn't come into
different.
Jammu and Kashmir.
No.
Right.
And also it is a very different ecology. It's fragile. It is a tribal state and many other factors.
So just for our viewers, more than 90% of the population in Ladakh is tribal.
Yes.
That's correct.
So but always the demand was for a self-governed, a state within India. So when the news of a separate UT came, it was assumed that it would be with legislature, where people would vote their elected representatives. So immediately when Mr. Wangchuk voted, that's when everybody had thought that it was a UT with legislature and with 6th schedule, which was in their election manifesto. But when they read the fine print, it emerged that there was neither a protection, which was earlier available under 370, and it was not a legislature either. So it would be a UT controlled with an LG and commissioners from Delhi, without any lawmaking powers of the local electorate and the local elected bodies. So that's when Sonam started to gently remind the government that perhaps this is what has been missed and has to be looked into. But right from the start, it was something that was stonewalled. It was not brought up in discussions. So the demand intensified gradually. And though there was a apex body and all created later for this, and Sonam was not part of this apex body, but as an educator and environmentalist, he became the face of this demand because he was making people aware of why you need your own legislature, why you need protection as an educator and as an environmentalist. And even up till July, when he was nominated into the apex body, he was just a supporter from outside.
So Mr. Wangchuk was then nominated to this apex body in July 2025.
Just this year. And then when the talks were proposed by MHA, there was in a way, a very open demand from them that Sonam should not be part of the talks.
Why is that?
That's for them to answer. But even then, Sonam was okay with it. And he said it's okay that the leaders go there for the talks, and he'll continue with this anshan in which he had started. So he was okay to always support from the outside. And even on the day when this happened, it's 2 months today, he was in a different place, in a different park, protesting. And it was his 15th day. And not just on these 15 days, no violence had happened. But even before, when he did this padyatras or when he did other anshans, it was the hallmark of all these movements. It was a Gandhian way of peaceful protest. And it would have continued that way if this unfortunate event at 24 hadn't happened. There was a lot of action and reaction and that took place. There was CRPF who put undue pressure. They need not have shot people, that too above the waist to control the situation. They could have used water cannons, tear gas, and all of that other means. And even prior to that, if these talks hadn't been allowed to fester for 5 years when people were asking for it, if an amicable solution could have been arrived at, then also all this would not have happened, because the last elections' promises hadn't been fulfilled, and another set of elections had happened last year.
So 2019 to 2024.
So the MP election happened, and what Sonam was trying to tell the government at the center is that this is central to Ladakh's demands, and if you do not pay heed to this, you will lose. And he was telling them that it's not a good idea for you to lose. But still, because they didn't pay any heed to it, they did lose the MP elections last year. Unfortunately, on 24th, the youth who had also become tired of Sonam's peaceful methods, because they were not seeing any results happen, be it in employment or in other even minor issues. So they were feeling that this government is not going to listen to these peaceful ways. And, so there was a lot of frustration. But if it had been solved beforehand, and one need not walk 1,200 kilometers for a meeting with the Ministry of Home Affairs, right? And even after Sonam walked for 1,200 kilometers, he was, instead of being, gracefully taken for talks, they were detained again in Delhi. So all this was getting built up in the people of Ladakh, and especially the youth who did not see any increase in employment or improvement in their livelihoods, which was promised.
Why is it important for Ladakh to have a sixth schedule?
So for several reasons. One is that it is a provision under the Constitution of India for pockets which are tribal. And Ladakh is 95% tribal, because there is a certain lifestyle where you live in harmony with nature. It is not so industrialized, and your daily life
Is
rhythms
dependent on the environment and the ecology.
Yeah, and the people know how to take care of it. So if that protection is removed, or if they are not allowed to follow their cultural, their environmental, their lifestyle issues, then you may give them something which they get dependent on, and then when it is removed, the location does not support that lifestyle. So there is a way to live in harmony with nature, and the Constitution was sensitive enough to recognize that, and it is also there in some larger states of India, where these communities are allowed to live as per their own lifestyles and ways. And secondly, there is a certain way these communities want to develop.
Okay.
Their timeline is not of just 5 years or 10 years when you make a profit, or, short term. They're thinking of generations to come. And people who are going to be impacted by your policies or your developmental models have a right, to say what kind of development they want. Otherwise you just come, you mine or use their land in whatever way, and you waste it, and then you go after your profits and other things are done. But they are there with the impact of it, and which we have seen in a lot of northeast states and also other mountain areas, where it's been devastated after be it mining or overdevelopment and so on. So Ladakh is one area which is left pristine, so we can set a model for India and the rest of the world that how we can do development which is not. So sixth schedule is not anti-development. It is a certain sustainable kind of development which is meaningful and which takes the consent of the people there to go forward. If you take an example of agrivoltaics, or photovoltaics, which they are planning to set up.
These are farms, right? Agrivoltaics, photovoltaics.
So government has planned to bring in gigawatts of power, let's say.
Right.
So they may just look at the ROI and they may just come and take the lands which belong to the herders and drive out the herders. That is one way of development. The other way, which we prototype in our university to give to the government so that they can scale it up through their policies, is if we can do it in a way that co-opt the communities by using the ground below the photovoltaics to grow fodder for the Pashmina goats, which die in winter because the whole place is covered with snow and there is no grass for them. So you anyway are going to have thousands of acres where you're going to put up photovoltaics. And if you grow fodder underneath, then you're benefiting the communities.
Right.
So this is what at Hayal and Sonam Wangchuk wants, that when a development in Ladakh happens, it should take into account, the way Ladakhis have lived for thousands of years in such a difficult and fragile ecosystem with such scarce resources, but very abundantly, rather than you just cut, copy, paste whatever you're doing elsewhere and, destroy the place.
Right. If the central government has given sixth schedule, like you were saying, in many large states, areas in large states, according to you, what is the resistance, let's say, of doing that for Leh?
I think one of the things that they may fear is a lot of other people may start demanding it. And maybe they are planning something to do across the country, which this may hinder.
Okay.
So our point is not whether it is sixth schedule or some Article 371 or legislature or something. The point is that to solve this problem, you don't detain a person wrongfully under a wrong act, NSA, which anybody in his right mind would know that Sonam does not in any way qualify to be detained under that. So the point is there can be a dialogue and a discussion to solve this. So the thing is, because of this lack of dialogue, there is a trust deficit on either side. The government is maybe wondering why these people want sixth schedule, and people of Ladakh are wondering what is the problem in giving, exactly as you are questioning. And there has never been a platform where this is openly discussed and debated, which should be in a democracy, There could be a 9 p.m. prime time debate about this. And the whole of India or Ladakh and, experts or climate activists from India can be asked to opine. And there could be a open and a transparent way of coming to a solution. Because I'm sure both the people of Ladakh are extremely patriotic and nationalist. And I'm sure that the party at the center is extremely patriotic and nationalist. So neither of them are asking for anything which is against the national interest. The problem is in the lack of transparency. Why a dialogue is not being conducted on this. I know that how people of Ladakh and the Ladakh scouts, or be it the people, they love the country. They're so patriotic. Sonam himself has spent his entire life, working for the Indian Army, for the youth of Ladakh, for education in India. And so is this party, considered to be nationalistic and patriotic. So when both have good intentions for India, what's stopping us in this day and age where we are talking about the mother of democracy that India is, or the largest democracy in the world, to have a dialogue or a debate or a discussion or even a disagreement and then arrive at a solution which works for all?
Arriving at a
solution. Using of force and power and using the entire machinery that is at your disposal, to first witch hunt somebody for the last, 1 year, then to character assassinate somebody, using your IT cell, all kinds of wrong things that were being spoken about him as a agent of Pakistan or China. There was a character assassination, which is not a good thing at all. And now finally detention, and it's been 60 days. So this is not how we work, as a truthful nation that is on the path of growth and progress and development and is planning to become a Vishwa Guru and setting example to the rest of the world. by using falsehood and fake narratives. This is not what India ever stood for. Whenever we talk about Ram Rajya, we talk about the golden age, Gupta period, one thing which was the center stone and which is our motto of this country is Satyamev Jayate. What is appalling to me, being in the middle of all this for the last 2 months and for the last 2 years, is the reliance on lies and fake narratives and falsehood, to just push a certain agenda.
I want to circle back to that fateful day, which is September 24th. The BJP office was torched, put on fire. The Indian paramilitary forces shot down 4 protesters. And the centre accused Mr. Wangchuk of instigating that violence because it had happened during the protest. What are your comments? What happened on the 24th of September?
So, Sonam was at NDS ground where he was, it was his 15th day of Anshan. And Hayal, which is our university, was as usual, it was another day. And some of our staff and students came on 24th. That on 23rd evening, 2 senior people had been hospitalized because it was their 14th day of fast. And they were very upset about it. And they wanted to go and show their solidarity through a peaceful march.
These were students from the Himalayan Institute of Alternatives?
No, the whole of Ladakh.
All of Ladakh
was planning a peaceful protest because these 2 people had
been hospitalized.
And some of our staff said that we also want to go. But they were there as peaceful observers. And then I was not even informed that what's happening. Nobody's phone was going through. And then I just came to know after a while that this office has been burnt and all of that. So we did not know what had caused it, what had triggered it. But in his representation to the advisory board, Sonam has written that how the whole thing started with the people coming together. There were some talks. And some of the leaders of political parties, all of them, they made very strong, some remarks. And then that led to a group of youth from Ladakh to break away. And that's the last thing that Sonam saw, that they broke away and went. And then
these were from at the ground where the protest was taking place.
So they broke away from that
Okay.
ground, and then they went somewhere. And after some time, they heard that this place had been burnt and so on. So the leaders of the apex body, they went to contain it, and then they came back to say that it has gone beyond containment. And Sonam immediately, he took to the podium and there were gunshots being heard when he's speaking. And he called off the Anshan. He said, this is not how I wanted it to be, and my peaceful way has failed. And I request, he condemned it, and he said that we should not be doing it. And he was taken aback. It was a surprise for him that it had taken this turn. And later he was whisked away and taken back to Hayal, where he came. And there was a huge mayhem, and we did not know at Hayal what had happened, the sequence of things, which later from Sonam's representation and others, we came to know. But what actually had happened was people were peacefully protesting. And then out of the blue, there were this tear gas that was done, and then stone pelting started. Now So
tear gas by the paramilitary forces,
Yes.
stone pelting by the protesters.
And
people who were there.
And some protesters said that they even saw sometimes this paramilitary pelting stones and then saying, see, the locals are pelting stones. So it was also kind of instigated, And then one thing led to the other, and it just went out of control. So who exactly is to be blamed? There is a judicial inquiry going on. But even that judicial inquiry that is going on, I came to know in the last few days that it is not happening in a fair manner. On one hand, there is still people being arrested. Even like 3 days ago, there was a gentleman who was always walking with Sonam in Padyatra and doing Anshan. He was arrested. Mr. Stanba is his name. And there is still this fear in the air. So how can people go and give their affidavits? And I don't even know how fair the process is, because very few people are turning up for the affidavits, though a lot of press conferences have been done by apex leaders. So what I'm told is there's such an atmosphere of fear. And also the postmortems of the 4 people who died, because never in such circumstances you shoot at the head or the heart. You always shoot below the waist. So it was out in the open by people, the parents of those children, that they were thrown to the ground by the CRPF and they were shot in their heads and hearts. And the postmortem reports are not being given to them, to the families. So there is not a fair way of even the judicial inquiry that's happening, is my concern. So that's the concern, that everything is so controlled. The media is controlled. The judiciary is, in India today, I'm talking about in general, the judiciary is not free. The media is not free. When such inquiries are happening, they are not happening with the spirit of actually finding out the truth and what really happened. So if facts are misrepresented, or they are omitted or ignored or suppressed, then we will not know the exact judicial inquiry results, whether they are genuinely what happened, or because they want to fit it to a certain narrative already.
I'm going to circle to the press statement on September 30th, 6 days after the violence. The Ladakh administration has said this, and of course this is in the public domain, so you know this, said Mr. Wangchuk had suggested overthrow of the government on lines of Arab Spring if their demands were not met. On multiple occasions, he suggested self-immolation by Ladakhis on lines of protest in Tibet. This is the press release on September 30th. The Ladakh administration said even though other lay apex body leaders, including elders, rushed to pacify the aggressive crowd, Mr. Wangchuk made no attempt to ensure peace. So this is in the press release by the authorities. What are your comments on this?
Sonam took the trouble to put it out on social media. Number one, to bring the thing under control. And he, as I said, he went to the podium and gave a speech. And that video is available on, public forums, that how you can hear the gunshots, and yet he is appealing everybody to not continue this violent ways, and he condemns it, and he tells the youth that have more patience and we will succeed and all of that.
So he took an
stood his ground and he put the well-being of the youth and the people over his own and the goal of the Anshan. He kind of cancelled the Anshan that moment itself.
That moment itself.
So the last thing is not true at all, that he did not make efforts. He did at the cost of his own life. And secondly, this Arab Spring, Gen Z, Nepal, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka are all being spoken in one breath. And what the press conference said was that instigated it. And even in their detention order, they have said that the September 24th talk, which he gave, mentioning this Arab Spring from the location of the Anshan. But first of all, none of these talks happened before the event. Secondly, none of these are as scary as they are being made it out to be. So I'll come to that one by one. So first of all, the 24th September talk that Sonam gave was after the incident had happened at 5 p.m. from the institute, from his residence.
Right. So after the violence had taken place, then he came back to the institute and then he gave a speech.
So all these instances happened at 11-12 in the morning. This is at 5 p.m.
Okay.
The PTI, the ANI, or I think PTI interviewed him. And they asked whether this was like a Gen Z kind of a revolution.
So that was the question.
That was the question.
युवा पीढ़ी हजारों की संख्या में बाहर आ गए. कुछ लोग सोचते हैं कि ये हमारे समर्थक थे. मैं कहूँगा हमारे समर्थक से ज़्यादा, हालांकि समर्थक पूरा लद्दाख है इस मुद्दे पर, लद्दाख के, मगर ये युवा पीढ़ी का बड़ास था, एक तरह का जेन ज़ी रेवोल्यूशन जो कि उनको सड़कों पे लाया। 5 सालों से वो बेरोज़गार हैं, एक के बाद एक बहाने करके उन्हें नौकरियों से बाहर रखा जा रहा है और फिर लद्दाख को संरक्षण नहीं दे रहे हैं।
Sonam, in my so many years of knowing him, he does not have Gen Z in his vocabulary even. You know, so when they asked him this question, he in Hindi he replies, "मुझे नहीं पता." He's saying, "I don't know." You know, Gen Z or whatever, but it has never happened in the history of Ladakh, and it will never happen again. It should never happen again. And he says that the youth were frustrated because the demands were not getting fulfilled for 5 years, and that may have caused it because they were beginning to question this Gandhian way of protest. They were fed up with this, that nothing is not yielding. It's been 5 years. So that's all he mentions about Gen Z.
Okay.
And it's after the event. And Arab Spring, the reference comes on 8th of June this year, which is like 4 months before this happened. And that too is in a group of examples that Sonam gives about. So there were these talks that happened in May, and they were around domicile and employment alone. And Sonam, in his June podcast or like a talk, he says that we won't say these talks were successful because what is successful talk is only when they talk about protection in legislature. And he says, but I can understand these are not easy demands. And he gives the example right from how Mahatma Gandhi had to fight the British for India's independence. He had to go to jail, he had to do padyatras, he had to do anshans, get beaten up by the British. Then he gives the example of Sri Ramalu, of who wanted to form Andhra Pradesh as a state when Mr. Nehru did not allow Andhra Pradesh to become a state, and who fasted for 55 days and he gave up his life. And in that series of examples, he also mentions Bouazizi, who was not even... So Sonam's point was how one person can bring about a change. Okay, be it Mahatma Gandhi, be it Sri Ramalu, or be it Bouazizi, who was not even an educated person, but just a vegetable vendor. And he self-immolated himself and brought change in 6 countries. And then immediately after, he says, but we don't have to follow these kinds of violent ways. You know, if you hear that 8th June talk of his, immediately he brings a point that we have been doing peaceful protests and we will continue to do. You know, so that is the reference of Arab Spring. It was first to make a point that one person can bring a change, and secondly that we don't have to... It was in line with how Mahatma Gandhi and all brought a change. And the third point is, but we don't have to do that. We can follow peaceful. So you can't just take that Arab Spring out. Because
so that is the context of...
in the same breath, you have to also talk about then Mahatma Gandhi, which he mentions just before Arab Spring. He mentions, So it has been taken out of context to create this scare. And Nepal, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, again that video is like 4 months before, where he is referring to a speaker before him who gives these examples, that if they don't give these things to like Ladakh, then there will be a Nepal, Bangladesh kind of thing will happen. And Sonam again refers to his earlier speaker who brought these examples, and he again says that, but we don't have to do it in this way. We can do it in a peaceful way. Yes, but he does mention that he will give his life to make sure that India wakes up to this idea that if politicians make promises before elections, they cannot not keep up those promises. It's like giving a it's like giving a check and then the check bouncing. So it is, if that is a criminal offense, when your check bounces, then when your manifesto, points bounce, why is it not a criminal offense? And he says that that is something the government should not be doing. And he would work to improving the system of governance in this country, where leaders stand up for what they have promised and deliver it. So these are very intricate, talks as a teacher, as an educator, and who brings all these examples when he is making, and these are weekly talks that he gives called Acho Ninstam, which is Bade Bhai Ki Man Ki Baat.
Okay.
So this is like every Saturday he does for 15-20 minutes or half an hour, talking about all the in Ladakhi, all the current affairs that are happening, and people have this question how you should think about it. So he comments on them and talks about them, and there, as a teacher, he brings these examples and all of that.
And this is he puts it out on social media, or
Yeah, social
media as well. Okay.
Yeah. So what has to be seen is not these one-off references to Arab Spring. First of all, what has to be seen is the context in which it was given. Secondly, whether they were never called to action. They were in fact the opposite of it, that we should not be doing it. And thirdly, it should be seen as educator talking about it. And then lumping them all together, because in the press conference, the way it was delivered, it appeared that the whole 24th September incident happened because just before that, Sonam made a speech where, all these Arab Spring and all were mentioned, and that's what incited the youth, which was definitely not the case.
This is not the case. On September 25th, one day after that, I'm referring to an NDTV report. It says sources say, so it's not named the sources. It says sources said investigators had flagged serious financial irregularities in the functioning of the non-profit by Mr. Sonam Wangchuk, included repeated violations of the FCRA, the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, which is a license, of course, as you know, non-profits have to have to get funding. In case of SecMol's alleged violations, NDTV said it had accessed government's notification, which was given to SecMol, which said a show cause notice had been served on September 10th, which had 4 questions in it. The first was to do with Mr. Wangchuk depositing 3.35 lakh rupees into the non-profit's FCRA account. There were also questions raised about a donation of 4.93 lakh rupees from a Swedish donor for youth awareness programs. And 2 other small points were flagged, which was for 19,600 rupees and 79,200 rupees, which were wrongly entered into the non-profit's FCRA accounts. So did you get, I'll rephrase that. Was there a notice by the government on September 10th on this? Can you tell us a little bit about the funding of the institute and this notice and how it was handled?
So you can make out from the numbers itself, in thousands and lakhs, that how it is made a big deal of. So 3.35 lakhs, the first one, which they say that you cannot deposit into an FCRA account. So an amount had come into SecMol's FCRA, out of which a bus was bought several years ago.
Okay.
So that bus had become old, and so Sonam said that he will gift a bus to SecMol. So before I go into this, rather than financial irregularities, I must say that Sonam and I every year contribute up to from 50 lakhs to 1 crore of our personal funds into SecMol and Hayal. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, we both work pro bono. We don't draw any salaries from either SecMol or Hayal. That is the amount of the commitment as a foundation, that we have for. So we don't take salaries and we contribute our own funds. So when you do that, you cannot be, misusing the funds. Okay. So now coming to this. So this bus was old, and Sonam said that I will be gifting a new bus. So the students or the management of SecMol said, okay, then whatever we get this money, we will give it to you as an offset. So this bus was sold for 3.35 lakhs. And the bus that Sonam bought, it was 17 lakhs. So ideally, this 3.35 lakhs he should have taken. But he told them that don't worry to return it to me. You keep it, you'll need it. And because that bus was bought from SecMol from FCRA account. So the proceeds had to go back to that okay, because it is FCRA fund, that money has gone. So, but the narration that they had mentioned in their ledger was a gift from Sonam.
Okay.
It was not something that physically Sonam gave.
Got it.
It was notionally that he did not take the money.
But it went into the account.
As his donation.
As his donation. Okay.
So there was no physical donation by Sonam that went into it. It was a nomenclature for his intent that it's like a donation that has come from him. So we've challenged this. We have even replied to the FCRA, and we are going to challenge it in the court.
Okay.
To reverse all of this.
Okay.
The second one, which is this funding that came from the Swedish organization, it came for food sovereignty and climate change, to make a greenhouse, because students there are taught life skills. They are taught learning by doing. So how to be food self-sufficient, how to grow your own food, it's part of the curriculum. And the food sovereignty was, I don't know, deliberately or foolishly, both of which is bad enough, reflection on the government, that S is made capital, food is kind of taken to the before, and it's sovereignty of the nation. So they've charged us that we are taking these funds from abroad for some sovereignty of the nation. I mean, if only some 4 lakhs could, make your country sovereign with foreign funds, So this was actually food sovereignty in the MOU and every which place.
Okay.
So that was the second. It is the deliberate or foolish misrepresentation. The other two were genuine accounting mistakes, where we have a lot of volunteers who come and they pay for their food, and so instead of the normal account, it was paid into the FCRA account. So in one case, it was returned back to them, and I think in both the cases it was returned back. So that's the point they're making.
Okay.
So you can see how frivolous these charges are, and none of it is something that accounts for cancellation of FCRA. So there's no irregularity. And this is especially to be seen in the context that Ladakh only recently, after 72, 75, began to use money as a means of transaction. Before that, it was barter system. If I grew
till
barley...
75, till 1975.
Yes, it's only after it was opened for tourists. That's when they began to use money. Otherwise, if I grow barley, I would go take it to your house and take potatoes from you. It was more of barter. So the people there are very innocent about this accounting and processes, and you won't find many even CAs there, CA firms. And also the entire area is, there's no tax there, taxation, individual taxation. So people are have a very different approach to money, and they can't even look at these things as irregularities, If at all, these could be accounting errors or mistakes. But in the other two cases, it is a serious blunder in their understanding.
How has the current, everything that's happened since September 24th and the arrest of Mr. Wangchuk, what has the repercussion of that been in Ladakh on climate activists?
I think everybody is now waiting and watching. Dissent or any voicing has been silenced. People are scared to come out and talk. Even if somebody is posting something, they are being taken to the police station for questioning or being arrested.
Can you give us an example of in the recent past what has happened?
So I know I know of a lot of people who I was told that when they make a statement on social media or post a video, they are taken to the police station for questioning. So there is a atmosphere of fear that is there even today. You don't know who will be arrested, for whom there will be an FIR, Forget everybody else. I keep hearing rumors about myself that on some ground they may do something, to arrest me. So that's the kind of environment that has been created. It's not just climate activists, but I think the entire region, and including our work at Hayal, we've suffered. We've gone back 2 years at least So this year we were to start our new school, kindergarten to 12th. Our teacher training fellowship had to be stopped midway. And Hayal has been targeted and embroiled in all this much before the September 24th happened. So it was something they had already planned. They were looking for some event to happen that they would arrest Sonam and, derail this process. Because in August, they had sent us a letter cancelling a land lease, the land allotment. That again is their fault and mistake, because they don't even till date have a land policy. So we could not have signed the land policy if they don't, the lead if they don't have a policy even.
This was donated by the government, the land
Yes.
for the institute.
Yeah, and there was a clause that within a year you should sign a land deed.
Land lead.
Lease deed. And there are 4 letters from me asking them to sign the deed, and there are letters from them saying that we don't have a land policy.
So we can't sign the deed.
So we can't sign the deed, and you have a no objection certificate. You can continue construction, continue doing it. And based on that, we continued to do it. And now they said that we are going to make it encumbrance free, which means basically they're going to bring their bulldozers and break it. That was what that letter said. So that happened in August. And then from mid of August, there was a CBI guy, a team, sitting every day at our office, digging out things. And I handled the finances at Hayal, and I'm an MBA in finance. And we are one of the most, professionally run NGOs, because we also deal with the large MNCs and, PSUs. So we are very professionally, we maintain our records and everything. And they did not find anything amiss, But still, so there was nothing that they were doing on the ground, but just spreading it through media, that we have so many accounts, that Hayal has also violated FCRA. And we had given them in writing that how the funds that we received. So this, what I explained to you, was SecMons. Even Hayal, they were saying that we have still a letter, which I'll be replying to today. And they want to cancel.
It's a recent letter.
Yeah, they want to cancel our 12A. This is going on for the last... on one hand, I'm handling Sonam's Supreme Court case for the past 2 months. But for the last 4 months, I've been handling this land lease, this land cancellation. Then all these... the recent letter I got 2 weeks ago was they want to cancel our 12A. Our, Section 8 company, because we have, and though we have explained on different forums that, so FCRA is violated if you don't have a registration and you take donations.
Right.
But the money that we've received is because the Swiss universities and organizations like UNDP, they have given us research assignments. So they've paid for our research to be given to them. So it is a service agreement as per the FCRA Act. It is not a donation. And we have sent them all the...
research.
Our service agreements, our invoices, and what was the research reports. Everything has been done. So they have found there's nothing wrong in it. But there's no harm from their side, to just go and splash it around the media. And in India, for instance, it is the accused who has to run from pillar to post to prove that you're innocent. Anybody can just throw a stone at your glass door, and break it and go. And you have to prove that, you had done nothing wrong for that person to have thrown that stone on you.
I'm going to shift gears, Gitanjali Ji. Like I said, my team and I, we looked at your Ink Talk, and you mentioned your earliest childhood memory was an existential crisis. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and how did that feed into the person you are today?
Yeah, so both in that Ink Talk as well as in my TED Talk, where I speak about how we can become Renaissance people. I speak about an existential crisis where you were post-industrial revolution products, and specialization and super specialization was the order of the day. And I found myself to be a horizontalist or a generalist.
Okay.
Having interest in sports, to academics, to debating, to dance and everything. And that was not how you were supposed to be, because you were not a trailblazer in any. And like I would get a 95 maybe in math, but there's somebody always getting 100. But that person gets maybe a 60 in Hindi, but I would get also a 95 in Hindi. And then there's somebody getting 100 in Hindi. So then I thought, what do a person like me do, when you're not a topper? I was a topper overall.
Okay.
And like all-rounder prizes I would get. But that was not what the system expected you to do. But very early on, luckily for me, when I was 15, I read about Da Vinci. And it was such a relief that there was another madcap, who had many interests. Like you could have interest. It was perfectly okay to have interest in biology and physics.
So you related to Da Vinci's story?
Yeah,
Okay.
very much. That you could take up any subject and master it and then connect the dots with other subjects which are seemingly very unrelated. And that was the first interesting thing that happened. And then I was introduced to integral yoga and integral education of Sri Aurobindo, where the mother talks about how to be a great poet. You don't have to be a Shelley, which means weak in the body. We used to romanticize that if you're a great artist or a great poet, then you have to be having tuberculosis or,
Suffering in a corner.
yeah. And only then so she said that you can be very good in the body, also great as in art. So it was an eye-opener for me. And I think that encouraged me to bring together all the diverse aspects of myself. And I just then started pursuing them. Like puny little me, I went on after my son was born to become a black belt in karate.
I was just going to ask you about that. You did karate and ballet, right? In your 30s.
So when I learned that it is all mind over matter, that at any age you can do anything and you can be a lifelong learner and keep learning. So I wanted to try it out for myself before starting to teach this to others. So I took up the most difficult of physical activities, which is karate on one hand, which is strength, and ballet on the other, which has grace and dancing, balance on point shoes, and is very tough. And I was 33 and 35 respectively when I started that. And I could dance on point shoes within a year or two. And I became a black belt. And it is indeed true that it is mind over matter. And we can constantly reinvent ourselves. And that's what it has become the hallmark of my educational bedrock. And that completely correlates with, I also teach the Bhagavad Gita in the light of Sri Aurobindo. And enlightenment in Indian context is not to go into the immutable and to become actionless. But it is to come out of your comfort zones and not have a certain way of being that you can be everything and everybody at the same time. So you don't have a certain nature or a way of doing, but you can pick up anything and do whatever. So today you are required to be a Kshatriya and display strength and courage. You can do that. Tomorrow you have to be extremely caring and nurturing. You can do that. Day after you have to be bright and intellectual, and you can be that. So combining all the aspects and being free from any modality is what is enlightenment in India's context. So that is what Krishna is asking Arjuna to do. That be everybody. You can take up any bhava, he calls it. Meaning you can take up any modality. You are not bound by a certain way of reacting, acting or being. And that is lifelong learning. Like I was never the face of Hayal before Sonam was detained.
I was just about to ask you about that. Yes.
What is it?
Which is that you've been a leader in your own right. You've led organizations. So when you did come into Hayal, what was the dynamic like? Mr. Wangchuk was the face for it. So when you came in, you were happy to sort of not be in the spotlight and do your work. How did that work out?
So from my kindergarten days, I was always the class leader, school captain.
Okay. So in the spotlight.
At the helm of affairs.
Right.
But with Sonam, it was always, he was the celebrity. He was the face the public knew. It was a decision to, like when I started working with him on this project, that I knew that I would always be the number two, that the world may never even know. And Sonam used to, joke about it, that you are the best kept secret, my best kept secret, which nobody knows about. And we used to laugh about it. But personally, for me, again, I'm predominantly a spiritual seeker. So, to me, work is a means of that, endeavor. So, rather than not working with him, I decided that it is a good test of not letting your actions be driven by ego, but by the job at hand. It was a good test for me that how important was being a number one or being at the helm. How important is it for me? And if it is important, then I'm working from a place of ego rather than right action, Because when you are working from a place of right action in the world, which again is Krishna's call to Arjuna, it does not matter how the world sees you. You are number one or number two. You are just living your purpose and doing your best for the society. It is called Lokasangraha in Sanskrit. You're working for Sarva Bhuta Hiteratha, for the good of all. So it was a learning for me again. So expanding of my comfort zone. That so far, it was good that I was at the helm of affairs. It has brought a certain confidence, a certain independence. But maybe it's not needed anymore. Maybe now is the time to learn the other aspects of, working without being recognized. Or if it's a huge learning that can you do with as much intensity the work, even though you will never be recognized. I think it's a huge inner learning and growth. And that's what it has been for the past 10 years. But now that I am again required to, speak to the world, carry Sonam's message while he's detained. So you can again take it up. Like you are neither, wanting it, nor you are abhorring it. So it's again a call to right action. Whatever is needed to be done, you bring all your faculties and show up.
Whatever is needed to get the job at hand done, become that and do that. Gitanjali Ji, thank you so much for this candid conversation with Brut.
Thank you.